The Vanishing Hourglass. In the heart of the old town stood a peculiar antique shop, Timeless Treasures, run by a man named Mr. West. The shop was filled with relics from different eras, each piece with its own strange history. But one item stood out, a dusty, intricately carved hourglass that sat on the highest shelf, its sand never seeming to move. People claimed it was cursed, though Mr. West always waved away such rumors with a knowing smile. One rainy afternoon, a young woman named Emma Winters entered the shop. She had recently moved to town and was fascinated by its old-world charm. As she browsed the shelves, her eyes were drawn to the hourglass. It was beautiful, but there was something unsettling about it, as if it was calling out to her. "Ah, the hourglass," Mr. West said, appearing beside her. "It's not for sale." "Why not?" Emma asked, intrigued. "Let's just say it's special. It has a way of altering things," he replied cryptically. Emma left the shop, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the hourglass held some secret. Days passed, and her curiosity grew. She returned to Timeless Treasures, but this time, the hourglass was gone. "What happened to it?" Emma asked, surprised. Mr. West's usual calm demeanor faltered. "It seems someone took it last night," he said, his voice unusually grave. "Do you know who?" Emma pressed. "No, but whoever took it is in grave danger," he muttered, more to himself than to her. Then, catching her concerned expression, he added, "Don't worry, I'll get it back." That night, as Emma lay in bed, she heard a faint ticking sound, like the gears of a clock. She sat up and listened, but it stopped as soon as she paid attention to it. She dismissed it as her imagination. The next day, strange things began to happen. Time itself seemed to warp around Emma. She would glance at the clock, and an hour would pass in what felt like minutes. Then, other times, the minutes dragged on endlessly. At first, she thought she was simply losing track of time. But soon, she realized something far stranger was happening. Her reflection in mirrors seemed to grow older, her hair turning gray, then back to normal when she looked away. Desperate for answers, she rushed back to Mr. West. "You've been near the hourglass, haven't you?" he asked the moment she entered the shop, his eyes dark with concern. I don't know," Emma stammered. "But something's wrong. Time is slipping." Mr. West sighed heavily and gestured for her to sit. "That hourglass isn't just a piece of decoration. It's ancient, crafted by an alchemist long ago. It controls time in ways that shouldn't be possible. Whoever possesses it can bend time, but it comes at a price." Emma's heart raced. "What kind of price?" "Eventually, the hourglass will consume you. It'll take your time, your life, and trap you in its endless cycle. If you don't stop it, you'll be lost to time forever." "Then how do I stop it?" Emma asked, her voice shaking. "You must find it and return it here before the sand runs out," Mr. West said, his tone urgent. "Once the last grain falls, there's no going back." With little time to spare, Emma set out to find the hourglass. She searched the town, following the strange distortions in time that led her to an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town. Inside, the air felt thick with age, as though time itself had been stretched thin. In the center of the room sat the hourglass, its sand now flowing steadily. Emma could feel its pull, the way it bent time around her. As she reached for it, the world seemed to slow to a crawl. Her heart pounded in her chest as the final grains of sand began to slip through the narrow glass. With all her strength, she grabbed the hourglass, and in that instant, time snapped back into place. The ticking sound ceased, and the world returned to its normal pace. Emma rushed back to the shop, the hourglass clutched tightly in her hands. Mr. West was waiting for her. He took the hourglass from her hands, his expression one of relief. "You've done it," he said softly. "You've saved yourself." As he placed the hourglass back on its high shelf, Emma couldn't help but ask, "What happens now, Mr. West?" smiled faintly. "Now, time will move as it should, for you, at least. But the hourglass remains a temptation for others." Emma left the shop that day with a newfound respect for the flow of time. She never returned to timeless treasures, but sometimes, as she walked through the town, she could swear she heard the faint ticking of the hourglass, a reminder of how close she had come to being lost in time forever.